Hello, we are Ledger Mania, the game that makes accounting fun. We began operations in 2013 as an accounting board game. In 2018, we introduced our online game. Our company is dedicated to helping students learn the basic foundations of accounting. My name is Debbie Bloom, and I am the creator of Ledger Mania. I've been teaching accounting since 1994. I have a master's degree in accounting, a master's degree in mathematical finance. I'm a certified managerial accountant, certified financial manager, certified in strategy and competitive analysis, and I have 2 data analytics certifications from the AICPA. But today I'm here to tell you about Ledger Mania, the online game that makes accounting fun. Ledger Mania is a supplemental online activity designed to support online learning. Ledger Mania is auto-graded by the application with detailed feedback to students and instructors. Students first decide the cash effects of a transaction, which is missing from traditional accounting problem solving, then they journalize and post. Unlike traditional accounting board games, the goal of Ledger Mania is not to accumulate wealth. Students win the game by being the best accountant and producing a balanced trial balance. The random nature of Ledger Mania Online means that no 2 of your students get the same transaction set. They cannot copy the answers from each other. They cannot copy the ending balances from each other. Now, with an online game, handling cash before journalizing brings students to a much higher level of understanding and really grounds them in the transaction. And Ledger Mania is also competitive. There's a leaderboard that shows the highest performing students, and it doesn't show their score, it only shows their position, so it doesn't violate any privacy agreements, but it's competitive, so your students want to win the game. Now here's a brief view of what happens when you go to Ledger Mania. You can see instructor registration where you will sign in. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And then student registration where your students will sign in. How to order Ledger Mania online. Go to ledgermania.com. Instructors click the tab for instructor registration. Students click the student registration tab. Now the online game is completely free for instructors to register, create classes, assign games, and you can even play the game yourself to try it out for free. We have institutional licenses available. They're priced about $8 to $9 per student, depending on how many students are in the license, and then access is free for the student once they register. Otherwise, you can purchase it with individual licenses. So the students will register, and then they're directed to a screen where they're prompted to enter their credit card, and the cost is $9.95. For a high school, the license is for the entire academic year. For colleges, the license is for just the semester. Now we also have a board game available once you get back into the classroom. The Ledger Mania board game is a very fun and competitive in-class activity. So students will handle cash, journalize, post, and produce a trial balance with paper ledgers. Ledger Mania, the board game, is ready to play right out of the box with minimal prep work for the instructor. And you may need larger, multiple boards for larger classes, as you want to make sure that all of your students are engaged in the game. Now, with the board game, we have included transaction sets for a service company, merchandising company, LIFO/FIFO with colored inventory chips, not-for-profit company, hospitality company, auditing, forensic accounting, and on the website you can also create your own transaction sets. And included with the board game and also the online game, we have this rules of debit and credit, a little cheat sheet, so your students can use that while they play the game. Now on to what Ledger Mania looks like when you play the game. So what you're going to do is, once you've been activated or once your students have paid, you will click Login. Once you click Login, you enter your email. And the password. And just click Sign In. We've already set this up. To see what your students are going to see, just click View as Learner. When you click View as Learner, when you go in the first time, we've already set this up for this presentation, but when you go in the first time, all you'll see as a student is the practice game until you as an instructor set up a game, which I'll show you how to do in a few moments. The practice game is there for the students to get to know the software and know how the game works without being graded. So let's see what happens when you play Ledger Mania. So I'm going to go for a service company, just one transaction game, and I'm going to click Start Game. And we have one attempt already because I did this webinar this afternoon. So right now I'm going to click Start Game, and over here Ledger Mania is story driven, so the students understand why they're doing this. It's part of a story, it's not just some basic exercise. On the next screen, the students get instructions which are available at any time when they can read through the instructions, and then they click Start Game. And we have right over here our first transaction, paid $125 cash on account to vendors. So the first thing that I have to do, again missing from traditional accounting problem solving, is to decide whether I'm going to pay cash, receive cash, or maybe there's no cash involved, like receivables or payables. So right now I'm going to enter the cash amount of $125, and since this transaction says paid, I'm going to click Pay Cash. Now the software will not tell the students if they're incorrect, they'll just continue on. So I'm going to click Next, and now on the next screen I have to journalize the transaction. So for paid $125 cash on account to vendors, I would want to debit accounts payable, for $125, and I would want to credit cash for $125. Now once I've journalized the transaction, next I have to post it to the T accounts. So the instructions, please fill in the T accounts as shown below and click the Next button when done. So I click Take Me Back to the site, and notice that I can expand and contract all of my assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expense, so I can still see the general journal on the board as I enter it into the T accounts. So first I'm going to open up the liabilities, and I'm going to debit accounts payable for $125. Then I'm going to open up the assets, and I'm going to credit cash for $125. Now normally at this point the students would see Next instead of View Trial Balance, because they cycle through the cash, journalizing, and posting until they get to the final transaction. You as the instructor decide how many, 5, 7, 12, 10, 15, whatever you decide when you set up the game. Once they've cycled through posting the last journal entry, then they go to the trial balance. So right now I'm going to click View Trial Balance, and we have the instructions for the students. So now notice we can see the T accounts on the left and the trial balance on the right. We recommend the default setting to fill in the T accounts and have the trial balance fill in automatically. There is a setting where you can force them to do both, but it is an awful lot of work. So for my cash, I start off with $26,500 on the debit side, and then I'm going to credit $125, so I'm $26,375 on the debit side. Notice how the trial balance is filling in automatically on the right-hand side. Now my marketable securities are $55,000 on the debit side. Accounts receivable, $10,000 on the debit side. Prepaid insurance is 0, so I can skip it. Supplies inventory, $3,000. Notice with more transactions, there would be more accounts to figure out the ending balance because there would be more debits and credits. We only did a one transaction game. $11,500 for equipment and $10,000 for furniture and fixtures. Now I'm going to collapse my asset category so I can see my trial balance while I work on my liabilities. $7,000 on the credit side minus $125 on the debit side is going to give me $6,875 on the credit side. Moving on to notes payable, $9,500 on the credit side. Now I'm going to collapse my liability, enter in my equity, my common stock, my paid-in capital, $30,000. Notice how the trial balance is filling in automatically, my treasury stock, and my retained earnings. Then I move on to my revenues and my expenses. So I have my service revenue, $44,000 on the credit side. None of the other revenue accounts are being used. And then I have my expenses, $6,000 for rent expense, $4,000 for utilities expense, $1,500 for interest expense, and $11,000 for salary expense. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a purposeful mistake for miscellaneous expense. I'm going to put the $1,000 on the credit side instead of on the debit side. So now, once I figured out the ending balances in all of the T accounts, I click the button, click to total columns, and notice I'm not quite balanced and I'm told status incorrect account balances. So I'm going to go back to my T accounts. Now I can't correct any of the journal entries, but I can go back and review them and try to correct the T accounts. So I'm going to make my correct debit to the miscellaneous expense instead of the credit. Now I'm going to once again click to total columns. This time I'm balanced. They told me that my trial is now balanced, and now I click close the books. Once I click close the books, I get my score and I can view my results, and the computer tells me everything that I've done right and everything that I've done wrong. Now at this point, I'm going to show you how to register as an instructor and set up a class. So I'm just going to go back to Ledger Mania, and you can see over here I'm back at the page where I first log in. So when you log in as an instructor, this is the page that you would see. When you log in as a student, this is the page that you would see. So right now, for my login page on the left-hand side, I'm going to click Create Course Section. There's really no difference between a course and a section, so if you had two sections, you just have to go through this twice. So I'm going to click Create Course Section, and we can only do our pre-built repository course, so I'm going to click Submit. The only course that you can choose from is Ledger Mania. There's no other option. Now you can choose a category, or you can choose to add a new category, and the category can be by semester, or it can be by school, or it could be by class. So for this new category name, I'm going to call this Summer 2021. For the course name, I will call it Principles of Accounting. Put in a course ID and a course section. Now moving down, if I click yes, then I will get an email after each student, registers. If I click no, I would have to log into Ledger Mania to see who is registered. And then finally, you can set the default time zone for your class. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I'm in Eastern Time. So now I'm just going to click next. And once again, there's nothing to choose here. We just copy the game board and click next. It shows you the course settings. So I click save. And now we'll see my Principles of Accounting in Summer 2021. The next step after you set up a class is to set up a game for that class. So to set up a game under that particular class, I'm just going to click Game Board. Notice we have over here on the right hand side View as Learner. That's where you can go in and try out the games yourself. So I'm going to click Game Board. Now when you go into Game Board, you're going to see two things. First is a practice game, and notice the practice game is published. So you and the students will both see it when you log in. The second one we have is a Quick Play Service Company 10 transaction game. So if you're still getting used to the software and want to assign something very quickly, this is where all the defaults have been set, and you can just use that one to play a corporation service company. But let's say you'd like to set up a different type of game. So right above where we have the two games, I'm going to click on the left hand side, Create New Game. And these are all of the versions that are available to Ledger Mania Online. So here's the practice game, which has already been published. You can see the status. Then we have the Quick Play Service Company. To use that very quickly, all you have to do is click the Use button on the right hand side. But available, we have Service Company, either corporate or proprietorship. It'll match with any book that you've adopted. Merchandising Company, both corporate and proprietorship. Then down below, we have Auditing Corrections, which is like forensic accounting. The students have to correct incorrect transactions. Then we have a hospitality industry and a not-for-profit transaction set. All of those are available, and during your license you can assign as many games as you want from as many of these versions included in the adoption price. So right now I'm going to choose a service company proprietorship because my book doesn't use a corporation. My book uses a proprietorship. So I'm just going to check that, and then on the right hand side click Use. Now there's a lot of stuff that you can do here, so that's why we had the Quick Play set up. So I have the name. I can always change the name if I want. So it could be, let's say, October Game or Game for a particular class. The game board and the game type have already been set. Now you can either set game dates, so you can set a date that's available or a close date, or you can choose no game dates where the students basically have all semester to work on it. You can either allow late submissions or not allow late submissions. The yes isn't active now because I haven't set the game dates. When I set the game dates, it will allow late submissions, but I have to set all of those dates. So I'm going to click no and no, otherwise I have to go through setting dates. And you can allow multiple attempts. The default is no, but you can change that to yes. Now down here in the green area, this is where all the points have been assigned for all of the different journalizing, posting, and the trial balance. We spent a lot of time on this and a lot of thought and energy, but if you feel the weights are not correct, you can always change the point scheme. But very important, down at the bottom of this green box, you can set the number of transactions, any one, from 1 to 20. So you can have your students cycle through 5 transactions before they get to the trial balance, or 10 transactions, or 12, whatever number that you want. And here's what I talked about when I played that sample game. The default to allow the auto trial balance means that the students don't have to transfer from the T accounts to the trial balance. If you set it no, they have to fill out both the T accounts and the trial balance. I'm going to leave that to yes. And then down below, there are some defaults. It's a good thing to keep all of these defaults. Release the score to learners, display in gradebook. You can change the weights. We recommend displaying the score as a percentage because the total points really doesn't mean very much. Then, very important, down at the bottom are the defaults to activate the game and publish the game. Your students will not see it until you activate and publish the game. So now I'm going to click Save Game, and my new service company proprietorship is available, and you can see under Game Status that it has been published. Okay, now that we've gone over how to create a game, the next step is how to send a link to your students. So notice we have several tabs right under the My Courses. Next to Game Board, we have Manage. Over here is the course URL. You will send this link to your students. You can copy this link and then paste it into an email. If you've purchased an institutional license, all the students have to do is go through student registration, enter their email from your link, and they'll be let in for no charge. If you've chosen the individual cost, students will click the link and register, and then the second page they'll be directed to enter in their credit card and pay the $9.95 fee. And finally, you notice we have a grade book over here. The grade book will not work right now because we don't have any students set up. We haven't activated any students for this class. Now I'm going to show you how to register as an instructor. It's free for you to register and to play the game as a student. So all you have to do is publish a game and then click View as Learner, and you can play whatever version that you would like and test it out. So right now I'm going to go to ledgermania.com, and on the top I'm going to click Instructor Registration. Your students would click Student Registration. So I'm going to click Instructor Registration. All you have to do is give your first name and last name, your institution, your email, how you heard of us, and then make sure to click the CAPTCHA and create your instructor account. Within about 24 hours, you will receive an email from Ledger Mania. Please check your spam folder, and it will give you a password where you can then go and click Login, and you can begin your Ledger Mania experience. Now, once again, just to remind you, you can order Ledger Mania online at www.ledgermania.com. If you would like an institutional license, you will need to email us at info@ledgermania.com. And remember, institutional licenses are priced at about $8 to $9 per student, and individual licenses cost $9.95. Thank you so much for watching our video, and remember, email us at info@ledgermania.com if you have any questions. Thank you.